They said she was pregnant. Then the most powerful cowboy said, "That child is mine." Lila had always been proud of her independence. She lived in a small Texas town, a place where everyone knew everyone else's business, but she managed to keep her own life private. She worked hard on her family's modest ranch, waking before sunrise to tend to the horses and cows, fixing fences, and making sure the land was well cared for. Life was simple, but it was peaceful.
Until the whispers started. It began subtly, like a gentle wind, brushing past her ears.
A neighbor, leaning over the fence, would give her a strange look and quickly glance away. Friends she had known for years would suddenly avoid eye contact, pretending to be busy whenever she approached. At first, Lila shrugged it off, thinking it was nothing. People in small towns loved to gossip, and she had learned long ago not to take it personally. But soon the whispers grew louder. One afternoon, as she was gathering eggs from the chicken coop, she overheard two women speaking just beyond the barn.
"Did you hear about Lila?" one said, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. "I heard she's,
Expecting. Pregnant, the other replied, her eyes wide with shock. But who? How? Lila froze, her hand gripping the basket tightly. She wanted to turn and scold them, to tell them they had no right to talk about her like this, but something inside told her to remain silent. Brash. Instead, she let them continue, letting the words sink in.
By the end of the week, the rumor had spread through the town like wildfire. People looked at her differently when she walked down the street. Some whispered behind her back.
Others stared openly, their eyes filled with judgment. Even strangers seemed to know her secret before she had a chance to explain anything. Lila felt trapped in a world of assumptions, where her reputation was slipping through her fingers like sand. The more she tried to ignore it, the worse it became. Her family noticed the change in her demeanor. Her mother, usually supportive and cheerful, seemed worried whenever she caught Lila staring out of the fields with a distant look in her eyes. "Lila, are you all right?" her mother asked one evening as they sat on the porch, the sun dipping low behind the hills.
"I'm fine," Lila replied quickly, forcing a smile. "Just tired from work." But she wasn't fine.
She felt cornered by invisible eyes, judged by a town that once felt like home. Every glance, every whisper seemed to confirm the rumor, and she couldn't escape it. She tried to keep busy, throwing herself into chores and tasks around the ranch, but even the horses seemed to sense her unease. One evening, after a long day of work, Lila decided to walk to the barn alone. The sun had already set, and the sky was painted in shades of deep orange and purple. The air was cool, carrying the scent of dry grass and the faint sweetness of wildflowers. She loved this time of day, when the world seemed quiet and still. But tonight, even the calm could not soothe her troubled mind. As she reached the barn, she heard footsteps approaching. Startled, she turned, ready to confront whoever it was. To her surprise, it was Cole, the most powerful cowboy in the area. He was known for his large ranch, his strength, and his influence over the townspeople. People respected him, sometimes even feared him. And now here he was, standing at the barn entrance, looking at her with a calm but piercing gaze. "Lila," he said, his voice low but firm. "Can we talk?" She hesitated. Something about him made it impossible to say no. She nodded and gestured for him to follow her inside the barn. Once they were alone, Cole leaned against a wooden post, his arms crossed. "I've been hearing things," he said carefully, as if weighing each word. "People are talking about you. About the rumor." Lila's stomach tightened. She wanted to deny it, to tell him it was all lies, but the truth was complicated.
"I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Cole studied her for a moment, his eyes softening slightly.
You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to hear it from you, if it's true.
You don't deserve to be judged without someone knowing the facts.
His words surprised her. She had expected confrontation, criticism, or even ridicule, but instead, there was concern, a genuine care she had not anticipated. Lila looked down at her hands, feeling the tension in her chest. I don't know how this happened, she whispered. I didn't mean for anyone to know. And now everyone is looking at me differently. I feel... break. Alone. Cole took a step closer, his presence commanding yet comforting. You're not alone, he said firmly. Not while I know the truth. People can whisper all they want, but what matters is what we know. And I know you're strong, Lila. Stronger than they'll ever understand. For the first time in days, Lila felt a small sense of relief. Someone believed in her. Someone who mattered. Yet, fear still lingered. The town could be cruel, and she wasn't sure how long Cole's support could protect her from the judgment around her. Over the next few days, Cole's presence became a quiet reassurance. He didn't flaunt his influence or make grand statements, but he made it clear through small gestures that he was there for her. He helped with chores on her ranch, shared advice, and always offered a calm ear when she needed to speak. The townspeople noticed, and some of the whispers began to fade, replaced by curiosity and cautious respect. Even with Cole's support, Lila struggled with her own feelings. She had never imagined herself in this situation, vulnerable, scrutinized, and dependent on someone else's protection. But Cole's steady presence made her feel safer, more grounded, and even a little hopeful. She started to see that she could face the world again, that maybe she didn't have to hide or run from judgment. One evening, as they walked through the fields together, the sky ablaze with the colors of sunset, Lila finally spoke. Cole.
Why are you helping me? You don't even have to care about what people say.
Cole looked at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then he smiled faintly. Because it's the right thing to do. And because you matter, Lila, Bear. No one should have to face this alone. Her heart warmed at his words. In a town that had turned its back on her, one person stood firm, offering support and protection without asking for anything in return. It was a small thing, but in her world, it felt monumental. As the days passed, Lila began to reclaim a sense of normalcy. She continued her work on the ranch, feeling a quiet strength and knowing that Cole was watching out for her. Breaths. The whispers of the town still lingered, but they no longer had the power to shake her completely. She had an ally, a protector, and perhaps something more. A connection she hadn't expected, but couldn't ignore. But even with this newfound support, uncertainty lingered. The rumor of her pregnancy had set events in motion that she could not control. People would continue to talk. Questions would come. And at some point, she would have to face them all. For now, though, she allowed herself a moment of peace, standing in the barn as the evening breeze stirred the hay around her. She wasn't alone. She had Cole. And for the first time since the rumors began, she believed she could face whatever came next.
Little did she know, the next chapter of her life was about to unfold in a way she could never have imagined. One that would challenge her, test her courage, and change her life forever.
And it would all begin with a single, unforgettable declaration from the most powerful cowboy she had ever known. The next few days were tense, though not openly so. Lila tried to go about her routine, feeding the animals, mending fences, and working in the garden, but she couldn't escape the whispers that seemed to follow her everywhere. Even in the quiet corners of the town store, she would catch someone staring, lowering their voice as soon as she entered. She felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Cole, meanwhile, had not disappeared. He was always nearby, whether he was quietly helping with chores, stopping by to check on her, or simply appearing when she least expected him. His presence was steady and reassuring, like the roots of a tree holding firm in a storm. But Lila still felt a knot of fear in her chest every time she saw him. Could she truly trust him? Would he stand by her if the town turned completely against her? One afternoon, Lila was repairing a fence along the edge of her property when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Lila!" Cole called. Breaths. She turned to see him walking toward her, his boots crunching in the dry grass. There was something in his expression, calm yet serious, that made her stop moving. "I wanted to talk," he said as he approached, hands in his pockets. "It's about the rumor." Her stomach twisted. "Bear!" He glances around in despair. "There's nothing to talk about," she said quickly, hoping to push him away. But he didn't move. "People are still talking," he said gently, "and it's not fair to you. You don't deserve this." Lila sighed and let her hands fall to her sides.
I can't stop them, she admitted. No matter what I do, they'll keep talking.
"I don't know how to make them understand."
Cole studied her for a moment, then stepped closer. Sometimes you don't have to make them understand.
You just need to know the truth yourself and have someone who stands by you. I want to be that person for you, Lila, but I need to know, are the rumors true? She looked down at her boots, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks. Her voice was barely audible. Disp. Yes, it's true.
But it's complicated.
Cole nodded slowly, as if he had expected nothing less. "Then we face it together," he said firmly. "You won't face this alone anymore." The next few weeks became a delicate balance between work, whispers, and learning to trust. Lila was cautious. She had been hurt before by people spreading lies, and she wasn't about to let herself be exposed again. But Cole was different. He didn't push her or ask too many questions. He simply showed up, offering his support without judgment. The town, however, didn't make it easy. Even with Cole's quiet presence, people continued to whisper, and some were openly skeptical. Lila could feel their eyes on her whenever she walked through the streets or went to the market. She tried to ignore it, but it was impossible to completely block out. One evening, she found herself sitting on the porch steps, watching the sun sink behind the hills. Cole joined her quietly, taking a seat a few steps away. Neither spoke for a long time, letting the colors of the sunset fill the space between them. Finally, Lila spoke.
"Do you really believe me?" she asked, her voice trembling.
Cole turned to her, his eyes steady and unwavering. "I don't just believe you. I know the truth, and that's what matters, not what anyone else thinks." Her heart lifted slightly at his words. It was comforting to have someone in her corner, someone she could trust completely. But she also felt a growing fear. What if the town never accepted the truth? What if their judgment never ended? The tension came to a head one afternoon at the local market. Lila had gone to buy some supplies, hoping to keep a low profile. But as soon as she entered, she felt the weight of 100 eyes on her. Whispers followed her down the aisles, and she could hear snatches of conversation.
Is it true?
Someone whispered, Is she really carrying a child? She must have done something wrong, another voice muttered. Lila's hands shook as she clutched her basket. She felt trapped, like a bird in a cage. And then she felt a strong hand on her shoulder. Breath. She turned to see Cole standing beside her, his presence commanding and protective. "Back off," he said quietly but firmly, his eyes sweeping over the nearest bystanders. "She doesn't need your judgment or your whispers." The room went quiet. People stared, some in shock, others in disbelief. Cole didn't move, didn't let them intimidate him. His quiet strength was enough to make most of the townspeople step back, if only slightly. Lila felt a rush of gratitude and relief. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of safety, even in the middle of a crowded room. Cole's presence was like a shield, protecting her from the world's harsh eyes. After the market, they walked together along the dusty road leading back to her ranch. Lila's mind was still racing with fear and uncertainty, but she felt a small spark of hope.
"Why are you doing this for me?" she asked softly.
"You don't owe me anything." Cole looked at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Because it's the right thing to do." One should have to face this alone. Lila felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time since the rumors began, she felt like someone truly understood her, someone who would stand by her no matter what. But even with Cole's support, the town's judgment was not easily forgotten. She knew that some people would never believe the truth, that some would continue to whisper and stare. And she knew that eventually she would have to face them all. One evening, Cole brought her a bouquet of wildflowers he had picked from the hills. "For you," he said quietly, holding out the simple gift. "A reminder that even when the world is harsh, there is still beauty." She realized that Cole's support was more than physical protection. It was emotional, a steady presence that helped her feel strong, even when the world seemed against her. Days turned into weeks, and Lila slowly began to reclaim a sense of normalcy. She continued her work on the ranch, tending to the animals and the land, and she started to feel a small spark of hope that life could be good again. She even began to smile more, laughing quietly to herself when a calf stumbled or a horse nudged her playfully. Through it all, Cole remained by her side, never forcing her to talk, never judging, simply being there. And as the days passed, Lila felt a growing sense of trust and connection. She realized that Cole's presence was more than support. It was a lifeline, a reminder that she was not alone and that someone cared deeply for her well-being. Then came the day that changed everything.
Lila had just finished feeding the animals when she heard Cole's voice calling her name. She looked up to see him walking toward her, his expression serious but calm.
"I need to say something," he said, stopping a few feet away. Lila's heart raced, wondering what he would say. He took a deep breath and looked her in the eyes. "I've been thinking about this a lot," he said. "And I want you to know that child is mine." Lila froze, her mind struggling to process his words. She felt a rush of emotions, shock, relief, disbelief, and something she couldn't quite name. She stared at him, unable to speak. Cole stepped closer, his voice steady and unwavering. "I mean it, Lila. That child is mine. And I will stand by you no matter what anyone else says or thinks." Tears welled up in Lila's eyes. She felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a sense of protection and acceptance she hadn't realized she was longing for. For the first time since the rumors began, she felt truly safe and supported. The town would still whisper, and some people would continue to judge, but now she had someone by her side who believed in her, who would protect her and the child. And that made all the difference. Break. As they stood together in the fading light, Lila realized that life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. But with Cole by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The world could be harsh and unforgiving, but she no longer had to face it alone. And in that moment, standing in the quiet of the ranch with the most powerful cowboy by her side, Lila felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The days after Cole's declaration were both a relief and a challenge for Lila. On one hand, she finally felt a sense of protection and support she had longed for. Cole's words had lifted a heavy weight from her shoulders, and for the first time since the rumors began, she felt like she wasn't alone. On the other hand, the town was still watching, whispering and judging. Life was far from easy, and Lila knew she had to navigate it carefully. At first, some townspeople were skeptical. They stared when she walked by, their eyes filled with doubt, disbelief, and curiosity. Some whispered that Cole had only said what he did to protect his own reputation. Others thought it was impossible, that a man as powerful and respected as Cole could ever be so kind to someone they considered scandalous. But Cole remained steadfast, never wavering in his support. Each morning he would arrive at Lila's ranch before the sun fully rose. Sometimes he helped repair fences, sometimes he helped feed the animals, and other times he simply sat quietly beside her, letting her talk if she wanted, or just being there in silence. Lila began to notice how much his presence calmed her, how it made her feel strong even in the face of the town's judgment. One afternoon, Lila and Cole were walking along the edge of her property when they encountered a small group of townspeople. They were curious, maybe even a little hostile, their eyes narrowing as they approached.
"Is it true?" one woman asked, her voice trembling slightly with excitement.
Is she really carrying his child? Lila's stomach tightened, and she instinctively stepped closer to Cole. He put a steadying hand on her shoulder, a silent message that she was not alone. "Yes," Cole said firmly, his voice calm but carrying authority. "It is true." "And I will support her, no matter what anyone else thinks." The group of townspeople looked shocked, some even taken aback. Cole's reputation as the strongest and most respected cowboy in the area carried weight. His declaration left little room for argument. Slowly they began to step back, their curiosity replaced with a hesitant respect. After the encounter, Lila felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. She was grateful for Cole's protection, but the reality of her situation began to sink in. People would continue to talk, rumors would persist, and life would not be simple. Breaths. She needed to prepare herself for the challenges ahead, not just for her own sake, but for the sake of her child. Cole noticed the worry in her eyes. "You're thinking too much," he said gently as they walked back toward the barn. "The town may gossip, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere."
Lila looked at him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude.
"I know," she said softly. "It's just hard sometimes. Breath. People can be so cruel, and I'm scared for what might happen next." Cole stopped and looked her in the eyes. "We'll face it together. You won't have to do this alone. And I promise you, no harm will come to you or the child as long as I'm around." His words were like a shield around her heart. She realized that his support was not just physical, it was emotional. Cole's presence gave her the courage to face the world again, to stand tall despite the judgment and whispers. As weeks passed, Lila began to feel more confident. She continued her daily work on the ranch, but now she did it with a sense of determination and pride. Cole's quiet support allowed her to reclaim a part of herself that she had lost when the rumors began. She started to smile more, laugh quietly when a calf stumbled, and even enjoyed the simple moments of life on the ranch. Brash. Yet the challenges were far from over. One morning, as Lila prepared breakfast, she received a letter delivered by the town postman.
It was from a local committee of neighbors, questioning her actions and implying that she had brought dishonor to the community. Lila's hands trembled as she read the words.
The sting of judgment was still sharp, even with Cole by her side. When Cole arrived at the ranch that afternoon, he immediately noticed her distress.
"What's wrong?"
he asked, concern in his eyes. She handed him the letter, her hands shaking slightly. "They're still judging me," she said softly. "Even after everything."
"Even after you said what you said."
Cole read the letter carefully, then tore it in half without hesitation.
"Let them talk,"
he said firmly. "Their opinions don't matter. What matters is the truth, and we know the truth.
And I will protect you from them no matter what."
She realized that Cole's support was unwavering, that he truly cared about her well-being and the safety of her child. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of gratitude, relief, and something deeper she didn't fully understand yet. The next few days were filled with small victories. Lila and Cole worked together to make the ranch more secure, fixing broken fences, strengthening the barn, and ensuring that everything was in order for the coming months. They shared quiet moments of laughter and conversation, slowly building a bond that went beyond mere protection. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, Lila finally allowed herself to speak about her fears. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Scared of what people will say. Scared for the child. Scared that something might go wrong." "It's okay to be scared," he said softly. "But fear doesn't control us.
We face it together, and I promise you, everything will be fine. I won't let anything happen to you or the baby." His words were like a balm to her soul.
For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of calm and hope. She realized that life would still have its challenges, but with Cole by her side, she could face them. As the weeks turned into months, Lila's pregnancy progressed. She experienced the usual discomforts, fatigue, morning sickness, and moments of doubt. But she also felt a growing sense of connection to the life inside her. Every kick and movement reminded her of the child she carried, and every day she grew more determined to protect and nurture that life.
Cole was always there, quietly helping in ways both big and small.
He ensured she had everything she needed, from nutritious food to comfortable bedding. He even helped with chores that had become too difficult for her as the pregnancy progressed. His presence was a constant source of strength and reassurance, a reminder that she was not alone. Despite their growing bond, the town continued to test them. Some people were openly hostile, questioning Cole's intentions and spreading further rumors. Others tried to interfere with the ranch, testing the couple's patience and resilience.
But Cole remained steadfast, never letting anyone intimidate him or undermine their trust. One particularly tense afternoon, a group of townspeople gathered near the edge of Lila's property, whispering and pointing.
Lila felt a wave of anxiety wash over her, but before she could react, Cole stepped forward, his presence commanding attention.
"Back off!"
he said firmly, his voice carrying across the field.
"She doesn't need your judgment or interference. If you have a problem, take it somewhere else."
The group hesitated, clearly taken aback by his authority and confidence.
Bust. Slowly, they began to disperse, muttering under their breath but no longer daring to confront Lila directly. She felt a surge of gratitude and relief, realizing once again that Cole's presence was more than just comforting. It was protective.
In the quiet moments that followed, Lila and Cole shared a sense of closeness that went beyond words. They worked side by side on the ranch, shared meals, and talked about their hopes for the future.
Lila began to trust Cole in ways she had never trusted anyone before, and she felt a growing sense of belonging and security. Yet even with these moments of peace, the reality of the world around them could not be ignored.
Lila knew that challenges would continue to arise, that people would continue to judge and gossip, but she also knew that she had someone who would stand by her through it all, a partner who cared for her and the child she carried. As the sun set one evening, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lila and Cole stood together on the porch, watching the fields stretch out before them. Lila felt a sense of hope and determination growing within her. She realized that life would not always be easy, but with Cole by her side she could face whatever came next. And in that moment, as the cool breeze swept across the ranch, Lila understood something she had not realized before. Love was not just about words. It was about action, about standing by someone when the world turned against them. And Cole's actions had shown her a love stronger than any rumor or judgment, a love that would protect her and her child, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The weeks passed slowly, each day bringing Lila closer to the moment she had both feared and anticipated, the birth of her child. Despite the rumors and judgments of the town, she had grown stronger, steadied by Cole's unwavering presence. His quiet support had become her anchor, his strength a shield against the world's scrutiny. She had learned to rely on him not out of weakness, but because his support allowed her to face life with courage she hadn't known she possessed. Cole, for his part, had never wavered. He ensured that everything at the ranch was in order, often arriving before sunrise to check on the animals and the property. He helped Lila with even the simplest tasks, lifting heavy buckets, tying hay bales, or simply making sure she had water and proper meals. But it wasn't just his actions. It was his presence, his steady gaze, his quiet words, the way he always seemed to know when she needed comfort. These were the things that mattered most. Despite their closeness, Lila sometimes felt anxious. The town's judgment was not fully gone. There were still whispers when she went into the market, still suspicious glances from neighbors. Some questioned Cole's motives, assuming he had declared himself the father for reasons she could not understand. She wanted to ignore it, but the doubt in other people's eyes sometimes seeped into her own mind. One crisp morning, Lila was gathering eggs when she noticed a group of townspeople watching her from across the field. Their faces were a mixture of curiosity and judgment. Her hands trembled slightly as she continued her work, wishing Cole would appear and protect her from their silent scrutiny. Moments later, his figure appeared on the hilltop, walking toward her with his usual calm and confident stride. As he reached her side, he gave a subtle nod, as if to say, "Don't worry, I've got this." The townspeople slowly began to disperse, unable to challenge the silent authority he projected. Lila felt a rush of relief wash over her. She realized that, with Cole by her side, the world's judgment did not feel quite as heavy. She was not alone. As her due date approached, Lila and Cole spent more time preparing for the baby. They set up a small room in the ranch house, painting it a soft cream and arranging simple furniture for comfort. Lila had chosen a few handmade decorations, and Cole had quietly added a rocking chair he had built himself. Each day brought new preparations, small tasks that reminded them both of the life growing within her and the journey they were about to begin together. Despite the busy days, moments of peace and joy were frequent. Lila and Cole would sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the sun set behind the rolling hills. They talked about the future, the baby's name, the kind of life they wanted to provide, and the dreams they held for the child. Lila felt a sense of hope she had not felt in months, a hope that grew stronger with every word, every shared smile. But life was never without challenges. One night, Lila experienced sudden pain. Panic surged through her as she realized that the moment she had been preparing for was arriving sooner than expected. Cole was instantly at her side, calm but urgent.
It's okay, Lila. We're ready.
I'm right here with you.
Break. He helped her to the horse-drawn carriage they had prepared for emergencies, and together they made the journey to the small town clinic, the rhythmic sound of hooves echoing in the quiet night. Lila clung to Cole's hand, drawing strength from his calm presence, but she knew that no matter what happened, he would protect her, that he would not leave her side. At the clinic, nurses and doctors prepared the room as Cole stayed close to Lila, offering words of encouragement.
You're strong, he said softly. We can do this together.
I'm not going anywhere.
Hours passed, filled with pain, fear, and determination. Lila drew on the strength she had cultivated over the past months, supported by Cole's unwavering presence.
Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the moment arrived. Lila gave one final powerful effort, and the cries of a newborn filled the room. Tears streamed down Lila's face as she looked at her baby for the first time, overwhelmed by love and relief. Cole leaned over, eyes shining with emotion, and whispered, "It's perfect." "Both of you." The nurses placed the baby in Lila's arms, and she felt an overwhelming sense of peace and joy. The struggles, the whispers, the judgment, they all seemed distant now, insignificant compared to the miracle in her arms. Cole rested a hand on her shoulder, steadying her, sharing in the emotion without a word. They were a team, united not only by circumstance, but by choice, by trust, and by love.
After the birth, life slowly began to settle into a new rhythm. The town, witnessing Cole's constant support and the arrival of the healthy baby, began to change its perception.
Racy. Some who had been skeptical or judgmental now approached Lila with cautious respect, offering congratulations or simple smiles. The rumors that had once clouded her life seemed to fade, replaced by an acknowledgement of her courage and resilience. Lila herself had grown stronger. She had faced the judgment of the town, the fear of the unknown, and the challenge of bringing new life into the world.
And she had survived it all with grace and determination.
She realized that strength was not just physical but emotional, a willingness to face life with honesty and courage. Cole continued to be her rock, his presence a constant reassurance. Breath. Together they learned the small joys of parenthood, the late-night feedings, the quiet moments of bonding, the laughter of their child.
Each day brought new challenges, but also new reasons to hope and smile.
One evening, as they watched the sun set over the ranch, Lila held the baby close and looked at Cole. "We did it," she said softly. Cole smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the fading light. "We did. And we'll keep doing it. Together." The world was not perfect, and challenges would continue to arise. But Lila knew that, with Cole by her side, there was nothing they could not face. They had built a life of trust, support, and love, one that would protect their child and each other from the judgment of others. Months later, Lila walked through the ranch with the baby in her arms, feeling a sense of peace and contentment she had never known. Cole followed closely, ready to help, to protect, and to share in every moment. The fields stretched out around them, a reminder of the life they had fought to preserve, the family they had created, and the future they would face together. The town, once quick to judge and whisper, now recognized the bond between Lila and Cole. They saw the love, the commitment, and the courage it had taken to face every challenge. Slowly, respect replaced suspicion, and Lila found that she could finally move through her world without fear. On quiet evenings, she and Cole would sit together on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the hills, holding their child between them. They talked about dreams, about hopes for the future, and about the life they had created. Lila felt a sense of fulfillment she had never imagined possible, a deep understanding that love and support could overcome even the harshest judgment. And in those moments she knew the truth of what Cole had shown her all along. Strength was not about being alone, and courage was not about facing the world by oneself. True strength was in standing together, in trusting someone to protect and support you, and in believing that love could conquer even the heaviest of burdens. The whispers of the past were gone, replaced by the quiet respect of the present. The future stretched out before them, full of promise, hope, and endless possibilities. Lila held her child close, feeling the heartbeat of a new life, and knew that together they could face anything. Cole rested his hand on her shoulder, his presence as steady and reassuring as ever. "We've come a long way," he said softly.
"Yes," Lila replied, a smile spreading across her face. "And we'll keep going, together." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the ranch.
Lila, Cole, and their child stood together, a family forged through trust, courage, and unwavering support. The story that had begun with whispers and judgment ended with love, acceptance, and the promise of a bright future. In that quiet, beautiful moment, Lila realized that the world had not defeated her. She had faced its challenges, embraced its uncertainties, and emerged stronger, braver, and full of hope. And she knew that with Cole by her side, nothing could ever take that away. They had survived the rumors, the judgment, and the fear. And now they thrived, not just as individuals, but as a family, bound by love, trust, and the unbreakable promise of standing together no matter what the future held.